Bitcoin is not a sprint. Bitcoin is a marathon. The richest and most successful investors understand this. And the market remains a place where the impatient lose money and give their Bitcoin to the patient, savvy investors. This video will break down the trends of the rich in Bitcoin and the rise of a new class of fat Bitcoin whales, and why you need to pay attention to what the big money investors are doing and understand how you can profit from watching the money flows of the rich. Before I break all of that down for you, a massive thank you to the team over at Exodus for sponsoring today's video. Exodus has long been one of my personal favorite wallets. It's an awesome multi-currency wallet which supports many of the most popular cryptocurrencies. Exodus has an excellent user experience and great customer support and allows for super easy in-wallet exchanging between different cryptocurrencies, and it is now available on mobile as well as on desktop. And you can even now use your Trezor hardware wallet with Exodus for that additional layer of security. Download the wallet using the link in the description below. Okay, so Bitcoin. Today, a million Satoshis is only around $80, which is a pretty damn sweet deal. Now, why do I mention that first? Because no matter how much money you have, Bitcoin is available to you. You do not need to own one whole Bitcoin. You think about it in Satoshis. Think about stacking Satoshis, just getting little bits of Bitcoin. Those little purchases, they add up over time. Owning one Bitcoin or more is certainly a great goal, but to each their own. So for the inspiration for today's video is that the number of Bitcoin addresses holding more than 1,000 Bitcoin is at a 5-year high. Have a look at this chart here. In fact, around 600 new big fat Bitcoin whales have bought Bitcoin since the depths of the bear market, with buying action seriously picking up during late 2018 and early 2019. Crazy that these guys were mad loading Bitcoin when the price plunged super hard and everyone was saying Bitcoin's dead. These guys were buying. Many also bought in just before the new bull trend started earlier this year, and they're buying big now. Tells you something. With 100 new addresses holding more than 1,000 Bitcoin appearing in just the last couple of weeks. This is very significant because 1,000 Bitcoin, that is a massive amount of coin. We're talking about people who simply have a spare $7 to $10 million just sitting around, taking up space in their super yacht, you know. That's significant. The interest from the world's estimated 150,000 ultra-high net worth individuals, which are generally defined as people with more than $50 million, it's wild to see these guys getting into Bitcoin. Well, we've had many people talking about this. Groups like the Dadiani Syndicate, for example, and many other reports have come out over the year that large buyers have been accumulating Bitcoin throughout the year, particularly across OTC desks. The on-chain data actually confirms those reports and shows a very important trend by some of the world's wealthiest individuals and most influential players. These guys, they are spending big time on Bitcoin, putting what in many cases could account for 5 to 10% of their net worth into Bitcoin. The one thing about this story is that, of course, we do not actually know who owns these addresses. There is, of course, a possibility that some of it could simply be a few super rich Bitcoin addresses making new addresses, dividing up their accounts. Yes, that is possible. But with so many reports about the ultra-rich buying Bitcoin this year in particular, I believe that they are making up the majority of these new addresses. And it is not, of course, just the ultra-rich, because this recent data about really big addresses actually complements a report from about maybe a month or so ago that the number of Bitcoin addresses holding more than 10 Bitcoin has hit an all-time high of more than 150,000 addresses. And a whopping 620,000 addresses are holding between 1 and 10 Bitcoin. Those addresses, those are the future Bitcoin heirs. Another very fascinating piece of recent data is that the selling pressure during the recent market sell-off came primarily from those that acquired Bitcoin between $10,000 and $12,000. It's nuts. The cycle just continues to repeat itself. People go all in at the top, and then they sell the bottom. This is weak retail hands giving it up to strong institutional hands and the strong hands of rich family offices. The savviest investors wait and buy the dips. Just look at the on-chain data of what the new whales are doing. They're buying the dips. But if catching the dip is tricky for you, and it is, it's not easy, then please, just a dollar cost average. It provides a good average price over time and avoids that pain of going all in at the top, which is a mistake too many people make. And it also avoids the stress of trying to time the bottom. You don't have an office full of people sitting around watching this for you because you're a multimillionaire. This time-tested strategy of dollar cost averaging has made many Bitcoin investors rich and has made their lives way more stress-free. Something to keep in mind, guys. The other super interesting thing about the recent sell-off is that there has been very little action from buyers who bought Bitcoin when it was under $5,000. Those guys, they bought Bitcoin for the long game, not for the short-term play. They're not thinking about days or months or getting rich overnight. These are savvy investors with savvy advisors that we're talking about here. These guys are thinking about years. They're thinking about mind-melting, sick gains from Bitcoin. There are a lot of lessons to be learned from watching whale behavior. Pay attention to what the big guys are doing with their money. They are buying here. They're not selling here. Remember, whales eat plankton. And you, my friend, you are not plankton. You are a person with strong hands. Pay attention also to what the respectable Bitcoin rich listers are actually out there saying. Like this great recent quote from Tim Draper. He said, with Bitcoin and the decentralization that comes with Bitcoin, geographic borders have become less relevant. No longer are we at the mercy of dictators and toll trolls to grow the world economy. In the long term, I believe, with regard to business and economics, we are more than ever one world. Nice message, Tim. Bitcoin really does break down the barriers. Remember as well when Tony Robbins tweeted about Bitcoin at the bottom? It was a good message, Tony. Anyone who clicked on to what Tony Robbins was trying to say made a killing by being able to buy Bitcoin just over $3,000. And listen to these great words from Mark Yusko, the co-founder of Morgan Creek. He was on CNBC the other day and he just nailed it out of the park on this one.
Was under 8,000 earlier today.
Buy it.
Regardless, though, of the drop. If I said to you Bitcoin dropped to 5,000, you'd say buy it.
Buy it. Because here's the thing. The daily price of Bitcoin doesn't matter. It's been alive for 10 years. In every year, other than one, 2015, it's made a higher low. The market cap has grown every single year. Every fundamental indicator of Bitcoin, usage, wallets, block size, transaction size, number of transactions, every single one, hash rate, making new highs. All of the indicators of the network and the network value are rising. The price of any asset fluctuates. Let's take Amazon. Amazon's been a public company for 20 years. In every year, including this year, it's at a double-digit drawdown. The average peak to trough, minus 31%. Twice, minus 90%. When was the right time to sell? Never. Who's owned it since the IPO to today? Jeff and his mom and dad. That's it.
These are the guys that want to see you do well. They want you to have a better financial future. And okay, look, you say, Lark, you're just cherry picking all the massively successful pro-Bitcoin guys here. But look, all of the ultra-rich Bitcoin haters are almost all categorically liars or have vested interests in the competition. And no, seriously, remember when Kevin O'Leary pretended to have no idea about Bitcoin, but then a video surfaced of him saying that Bitcoin is amazing, that he clearly understands what Bitcoin is only a few years earlier, and that he was putting a few percent of his total portfolio into Bitcoin. He's a liar. If you haven't seen the Altcoin Daily video on that, you have to watch it. It's a great expose. I'm not going to go into all of it here. Watch the Altcoin Daily video. Almost all of the big commercial banks, they publicly trash Bitcoin. They prevent regular customers from buying and selling Bitcoin with their cards, and they shut down the accounts of people who they suspect of trading or buying and selling Bitcoin. While on the other side, openly buying Bitcoin for their big money clients. And then, of course, there's the other class of Bitcoin haters, people like Warren Buffett, who is deeply invested into the competition, the banks, and he's also a technophobe. Sadly, the media amplifies these voices, but the reality is that some of the world's best and brightest minds are investing in Bitcoin, or they are building around Bitcoin. People like Jack Dorsey and his Cash App, people like the Winklevoss twins and Gemini, people like Richard Branson, who has been a longtime advocate for Bitcoin, and not just Bitcoin, but in Bitcoin-related companies. Personally, I put a lot more weight on the actions of people like that than the words and lies of the haters. And why are the ultra-rich stockpiling Bitcoin now? Well, there are a few possible scenarios. One is that, of course, they just like to make boatloads of money. That's a thing. Another is, of course, that the halving hype is slowly building, and we are even starting to hear reports that Bitcoin miners themselves are starting to hoard Bitcoin going into the halving. Many savvy investors are going to be looking at this and be watching for a year to 18 months after the halving for those new highs to start coming in. Then, of course, there's all the macro stuff going on, which I know I hammer on about all the time, so I'm not going to go into depth here in any of that stuff, but negative interest rates, inflation, capital controls, trade wars, so much macro dysfunction going on, it's mind-boggling. Rich investors, they understand that stuff. They understand it in a way which the average retail investor is never going to understand. Bitcoin currently is forging a whole new class of wealthy people. You can be on that train too. And I know, guys, we all have different levels of financial capabilities to invest into Bitcoin. But if you can aim to get at least one Bitcoin and just hold on to that bad boy, you're going to be okay. Bitcoin is shaping up to be the biggest transfer of wealth in our lifetimes. And early entrepreneurs, early investors, early adopters, these are going to be the people who reap those mind-bending rewards in the years to come. The ultra-rich, they understand this. Now, if you are not yet among the ranks of the One Bitcoin Club, and there's still time. If you need some inspiration on how to make that happen for you, then check out some of my videos on building Bitcoin wealth, which really just lay out practical paths that anyone can follow to get into the One Bitcoin Club or build their Bitcoin wealth beyond one Bitcoin. If you already have one Bitcoin or more Bitcoin than that, then get strapped in for the moon, because that trip is coming. The rocket ship is preparing, guys. I know it sounds silly, but look at where we're going. Look at the charts. It's crazy. Remember, there's only a maximum of 21 million Bitcoin. Most have already been mined. Millions are lost forever. Bitcoin is already scarce. And look, I'm also very excited about the future of Ethereum and of Cardano, and I hold a few other cryptocurrencies like Monero and Beam, for example. But Bitcoin still leads the pack. And while other cryptos also present a massive opportunity, which is why I also invest in and hold some of them, it is certainly hard to deny the power of Bitcoin. I really see that not holding Bitcoin is something that I cannot afford to do. Not having Bitcoin is in of itself a big risk in my opinion. And it seems that some of the world's richest investors and entrepreneurs, they agree, which is why they're buying Bitcoin. Look at the big picture. Don't get tripped up by that day-to-day noise. That will get you wrecked. Buy Bitcoin at every chance you get. Hell, sell the kitchen sink if you have to. Sinks are overrated anyway. I mean, come on. Who needs a sink? Sinks. Psh. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope that this video has been useful for you. As always, if you did find value in it, please hit that thumbs up button. It would be massively appreciated. And of course, let me know your opinion on any of this stuff down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time.